A very good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Ask Martin GK show. It's the final show of 2020. A massive shout out to everybody that has joined us over the past few months. I think the show's been going since the start of the summer here in England, and it's been absolutely phenomenal. So thank you all for joining me, and a massive shout out to Asmir Begovic and David Sanderson of AB1 GK who put together this idea for this show. So a massive shout out to those guys. It's been a really busy weekend for AB1 GK goalkeepers, but first of all I want to just touch on the very sad news today that Gerard Houllier passed away. The Liverpool manager has died at the age of just 73. The Frenchman managed the Reg from 1998 to 2004, and he led them to 5 major trophies, including the FA Cup, the League Cup, Europa Cup treble in 2001 season. Prior to Liverpool, Houllier managed Lens, Paris Saint-Germain and the French national team. After leaving the Reds, he won 2 League One titles with Lyon, and his last managerial job was at Aston Villa. But he left in 2011 after 9 months following heart problems. Very, very sad news from the football world today, and our thoughts go out to Gerard's family. What a week it's been for Asmir Begovic and his AFC Bournemouth side. After a goalless draw at Swansea in the week, the Cherries kept the pace at the top of the Championship, thrashing Huddersfield Town at the weekend 5-0. Dominic Solanke scored twice, followed by David Brooks, Junior Sladislas and Stam Surridge. But that was after Asmir made some critical saves in the game to keep his side in the lead. This has been the 3rd clean sheet for Asmir Begovic, who once again has ended up in the team of the week for the Championship. So a big congratulations to AFC Bournemouth and our boss, Asmir Begovic. There is no time to rest for Bournemouth though. They will host Wycombe Wanderers this Tuesday in an AB1 GK derby. Ryan Alsop and his teammates haven't won in the last 8 matches. That includes 2 losses this week. First away at Barnsley, which was 2-1. Then at home to Coventry City, 2-1. They're going to need to start picking up points very quickly. In League One, Chris Maxwell was man of the match for his Blackpool side in a goalless draw with Oxford United. He's in great form at the moment as well. Rochdale and Jay Lynch had not much luck, to be quite honest. They played Peterborough United where they lost 4-1, unfortunately. The games are coming thick and fast for James Balshaw, who played the whole of the 90 minutes for Harrogate Town once again in their loss to Morecambe in League 2. Ryan Fulton and Hamilton Academial unfortunately sit bottom of the Scottish Premiership at the moment. They had another defeat this weekend to Hibernian at home. They unfortunately lost 4-0. Over in Thailand, Michael Folksgaard was back between the sticks for True Bangkok United. They lost at home to Burian United 1-0. He's now wearing the Undici Galatico gloves. Over in Italy, Daniele Bora had a very tough day's work and a crazy game. Victus Entella, they hosted Empoli. Taking the lead in stoppage time of the first half, Empoli. Things got a bit wild though in the second half, in the first 15 minutes of that half, where Leonardo Musco scored 3 for Empoli. He then went on to add his 4th in the 71st minute. The game finished up 5-2. So it's a bit of a crazy one over there in Italy. That wraps up everything that's been going on for the AB1 GK goalkeepers. Today's show, I am really excited because I have a very special guest joining us, a goalkeeping legend. Bryan Gunn, who is an absolute legend up at Norwich City. He spent most of his career at Norwich. He's going to join me. His son Angus is at Stoke City at the moment. He's on loan from Southampton, and he had a wonderful career, did Bryan. So he's going to come on and we're going to talk about his career. He's also going to give some top tips about making it as a goalkeeper, some of the pitfalls along the way. And I also want to talk to Bryan about the gloves that he wore back in his day, because he was very famous for wearing certain gloves. So I'm really looking forward to Bryan joining us shortly. I think he's here and he's ready to join me. If you're tuning in on Facebook, the stream ends on Facebook, but come over to Instagram Live where I will be joined by Bryan. Bryan, how you doing? Just going to connect to Bryan. We'll take a couple of seconds. Bryan, how you doing?
I'm very good, Martin. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really excited for you joining me this evening. Really sad news coming out of the football world today. Gerard Houllier passing away. Did you come across him at all in your time in football?
Not really. I think Gerard was one of the sort of more modern managers, but he was probably around in French football when I was finishing my career. But you mentioned the 2000s there, when there was the fantastic results and victories he had with Liverpool. I just retired in the late 90s, and probably just missed each other. But he'd have been happy because of that, because I had about 4 or 5 clean sheets at Anfield during my career. So I'm sure Gerald would have sent me packing. But no, very sad news. And it was great to see all of the football fraternity, the friends, his colleagues and his ex-players on TV today, giving him such great tributes. He was a great footballing man, very well respected. And unfortunately, another sad loss during this, very sad time of COVID and everything else that's happening in the world.
Yeah, it's been a tough year, hasn't it, Bryan?
Yeah, no, it's been difficult. I mean, I spoke to you this afternoon just for a brief chat, and I said to you that my sort of games, I got told on the 12th of March that I wasn't able to go to Norwich City v Southampton. And until last week, when I went to watch Middlesbrough v Norwich City working for the local radio, and then on the Tuesday night, again just a week ago, I went to watch Stoke City v Norwich City working for media again. That's the only chance I've had to go into football, to watch football. One of my main job now is watching players that are associated with a football agency called Triple S Sports Management. And I go around and watch the players play, and unfortunately, obviously not been able to do my job up until, more recently now, the 2000s crowd that are allowed to come into stadiums, and again that might be affected because London's gone into Tier 3, so it's ever changing, for the world of football. Obviously, the players are, of all the leagues now are back in action, which is fantastic. And that means all the goalkeepers are back out there working hard again, which is great, if you're in the professional game. But, it's only the special few that can get into games now and actually, do the jobs.
You miss him going out and watching the football like you were, Bryan?
Yeah, well, I mean, I just listened to your mention of Asmir in the build-up there. I was just wondering if he writes his own scripts in the build-up to the Monday night podcast, because... but I have been watching him very closely recently, and he's been doing fantastic. He's had, as you say, clean sheets galore, and some unbelievable saves as well. And it just shows you that even if your team wins 5-0 on a Saturday, the goalkeeper plays his part somewhere in that victory. And some of his crucial saves, inspired his teammates to go up the pitch and score those goals. So well done to Asmir and this clean sheet at the weekend.
Yeah, he's been in incredible form, hasn't he? I think he's been in the team of the week for the Championship, sort of numerous weeks in a row now. I think he was a Bournemouth Player of the Month for November as well. So it just shows what incredible form he's been in, and to see them sitting second in that division is really good to see. Hopefully, bouncing straight back.
Well, I think all the teams that were relegated last year have started the season very well, and that's strange because normally there's a bit of a headache afterwards. Some of the teams that they can't get the season started straight away, but it seems like Norwich, Watford, and Bournemouth have all started the season well. They're all in the top 6 at the moment, so it's going to be a tight finish this year. I've been watching a lot of the Championship games because obviously you mentioned Angus has moved to Stoke now, and unfortunately just got an injury during the international break. So after his 3.5 games he played. He's on the treatment table at the moment, but we're hoping to have him back fit and well soon and back on the pitch wearing his AB1 gloves.
Yeah, we can't wait to see him back. I'm a big fan of Angus's, and we were saying earlier, he's still such a young lad as well, isn't he? He's got such a great career ahead of him.
Yeah, I mean, he at 24 has already played nearly 100 games, and I think I said to you that when I left Aberdeen at 23, I'd only played 25 games, and then obviously played a full season with Norwich City from the October. So yeah, we're sort of nip and tuck in the games that we've had up to our 24th, 25th birthdays. But he's got a long career ahead of him. Touch wood that he stays injury free or serious injury free. This was a fairly serious injury. Strained ligaments in his ankle, and again something that happened in training. An obvious sort of slide out of someone's feet, but his stud stuck in the ground and twisted his ankle. But thankfully it's not as serious as it could have been, and he'll be back on the training pitch very shortly, and hopefully pressing young Joe Bursick as well, who's doing a fantastic job in goals for Stoke City, and keeping up their good record of clean sheets every other week at the moment.
Yeah, they seem to be going really well, don't they?
Yeah, very solid in defence, and Michael O'Neill, obviously being quite an experienced international manager, seems to have taken some of those tactics with him to club football, and he is sort of trying to reshape Stoke City because, again, one of our players is Jack Butland. I've been watching him a lot at Stoke over the last few seasons, and there was sort of, since their relegation, I think we called it the headache earlier, probably a relegation hangover from the Premier League a few seasons ago. They've got themselves back into a more solid shape. Obviously changed around a lot of the players who've come out of the Premier League, and they've got more championship-style players into the side. And I think Michael O'Neill and his coaching staff are reaping their rewards at the moment. And they're just outside the playoff places just now, but it's not a bad place to be. I think there's about 10 or 12 teams currently vying for those top 6 places, and as I say, I think it's going to be very tight competition right through to the end of the season. That one.
It's a super tough division to get out of, isn't it? The Championship.
Yeah. No, they've got to work hard for the promotion. Sometimes you see a team coming from mid-table at the end of the season that qualifies in that 6th spot on the last day and the last minute of the season, and then they go into the playoffs. They've got the momentum going, and maybe the team that's finished 3rd are still disappointed from not getting promoted automatically, and then they meet each other in the final, and the team that at one stage was 10th or 12th, they get promoted. So as long as you're in contention with those last final few games of the season, the Championship just gives everybody that opportunity to still get back to the Premier League.
No, definitely. I want to touch on your career. Obviously, I spoke to my father quite a bit today when we were talking about your career as a player, and you had an unbelievable career. Take me back to the very start and where it all started for you, Bryan. When did you? What sort of age did you become a goalkeeper, or did you decide you wanted to be a goalkeeper?
No, I think it was primary school. When I was back in primary school,
very early.
Yeah, very early in the far north of Scotland, a place called Invergordon. We used to go out and play time, and I was forever diving about in the playground. And sometimes, if it was good weather, I'd be diving around with shorts on. Most of the time really, so I didn't want to get the school trousers dirty. And sometimes if it was muddy, I'd be diving around and going home with mud-caked legs, and my mum would have to throw me in the bath straight away after coming home from school. There was another goalkeeper in that town called Invergordon called Robert Geddes, and he went on to play professional football as well. He was a few years older than me, but when he moved to the senior school, then I became the primary school goalkeeper. And it sort of started then, but I still was quite handy as an outfield player as well, because obviously until he left the primary school, I was sort of twiddling my thumbs and my gloves at the time. But back then we started, and then into secondary school, and again there was competition between Robert and myself because he was in the high school, but at a more senior level. And then, there was another young good goalkeeper called Duncan MacDonald, and he played in a younger team, and I was still eligible to play in that team, so I could play outfield in one team, be in goals in another team. And then at the age of 14, I actually started playing men's football, amateur level at Invergordon FC, which is an amateur club. They had well, as they call them, veteran goalkeepers called Willie MacDonald, and he was nearly 40 when he retired. And I came into the team at 14, a big, tall, skinny, probably about 6'1", 6'2", skinny lad, and that was my first sort of experience of men's football, and certainly toughened me up for what was about to come, in the rest of my career. But at 14, I also got spotted by Aberdeen and Airdrie, and I went on trials at both clubs. Obviously, Airdrie just outside Glasgow, so that was a long way to travel from the far north of Scotland. Aberdeen was only 200 miles away, so that seemed a more sensible place to go. So at 14, I signed schoolboy forms for Aberdeen. And then during my school holidays, I used to travel down with a teammate called Eric Black, who ended up scoring a goal in the European Cup Winners' Cup final against Real Madrid in 1983. So we used to leave home together, and we used to share digs together, and we sort of started our footballing careers together. But just going back slightly, you mentioned gloves earlier, and the different pairs and styles. I got my first ever proper pair of professional goalkeeping gloves by standing or maybe sitting behind or being a good ball boy behind the goal of a training session where Ross County's goalkeeper at the time was a guy called Hamish Morrison. And I would be behind the goals, and if a shot was going wide, I'd sometimes try and save it myself. If it went past too far, I'd run away and get the balls. But he was very impressed with me behind the goals, and he gave me one of his All Sports pairs of gloves at the time. And that was, they were a bit worn, I must admit, but at the same time, it was my first sort of move up to professional goalkeeping gloves. So thanks to Hamish Morrison, who started me off back then at Ross County. And then I did go and play at 15 for Ross County's first team. We played in a pre-season friendly against West Ham United. And I was up against the likes of Phil Parkes, who was the goalkeeper at the other end of the pitch, Billy Bonds, who's obviously a big West Ham legend, Frank Lampard, and then the striker was David Cross, and in midfield was a guy called Trevor Brooking. I don't think he was a sir at the time, but he had Amazing into the box, and he's hit this shot from about 7 yards out, and it's hit me right between right in the private parts. And as a young, and I held on to it as well. But it was right there. And as a young 15-year-old, I had plenty of tears in my eyes, and I had to take breath after that. But Ross County actually lost that game 8-2. But I came on at half time when they were 6-0 down, and the second half finished 2-2. So
you still there, Bryan? I lost you there for a second.
Yeah, no, sorry, I'm still here. I don't know if I finished off there, but it was a great experience as a 15-year-old making the save from Sir Trevor Brooking.
Yeah, you're in some wonderful company there, playing with some wonderful players. Talk to me about your time at Aberdeen. How was it? Was it obviously that's your first professional club? How many years did you play at Aberdeen for?
Well, I signed for Aberdeen full time as a sort of apprentice stroke professional in 1980. So I had 2 years as a schoolboy. Then in 1980 moved out firstly in that era, and so I was joining the Scottish champions at the time, which was fantastic. We had a senior goalkeeper there called Bobby Clark, who was a Scottish international goalkeeper, a fantastic guy. Somebody who I looked up to, and we worked together in training sessions. There was a younger goalkeeper called Jim Layton, who was like sort of Bobby's backup, and another guy called John Gardner, who ended up leaving Aberdeen and going to play for Dundee United and a few other clubs. But even just mentioning Bobby and Jim, I mean, both those goalkeepers played over 500 games for Aberdeen. I think Jim more likely 700 games, and Bobby.
That's impressive, isn't it?
Yeah, so very loyal in their sort of their football careers. So obviously I learnt a lot from those two guys. I was back up to Jim Layton, from sort of 81 when he took over the first team jersey. As a 17-year-old at the time, that was I was number 2 goalkeeper for Aberdeen. I was on the bench when they qualified for European competition, so I was travelling away with the team on all European journeys all over Europe. Albania, Poland, Germany, France. We Sweden. There's so many unbelievable trips abroad, and that was great for my footballing education. And then obviously in 1983, again being on the bench, playing against Real Madrid in the European Cup Winners' Cup final. Aberdeen beat Real Madrid 2-1. Again, not having played many games that season, but just to be part of that historic period in Aberdeen's history was unbelievable. And we still have what they call a Gothenburg Great WhatsApp group to this day. We have Zoom calls. We've had reunions on anniversaries, and we go back up to Aberdeen. The most recent one was the 35th, 37th anniversary, and we managed to get Sir Alec Ferguson on the Zoom call as well. So, we've all kept in touch, and I was very lucky that my education came at a club like Aberdeen. I used to play for reserve team football. Then I used to travel away in Europe, and then I would also be picked for Scotland under 18, under 19s, under 21 squads. So I was playing games alongside learning from some of the top players in Scottish football, and that was great for team football. I really want to
full on time. A lot of football being played.
Have a go at myself, and Norwich. Time that I moved on from Norwich and from Aberdeen, and took up the number 1 shirt at Norwich City.
Yeah, and what a time you had at Norwich City as well. I was looking back at some of the statistics earlier on. You're seen as an absolute hero of that football club, and I know they welcome you back at any given moment when you go back to their club. Talk to me about the highlights at the club. You played a huge amount of games with them, over 450 plus games, wasn't it? What was the total again?
Yeah, we're just breaking off a little bit there, but I think we're on about the number of games at Norwich City now. And I saw you put out on Twitter earlier that it was 478. It was actually 407. I always say that there was 470 ones because
You're totally gone. It might be worse if the kids are on anything. Is the live finished? We're hopefully going to try and get Bryan back. Pretty poor connection, either my end or Bryan's end. We're going to try and get him back if we can, which we're going to have a go at now. Bryan, you there? Hello, Bryan, you there?
Oh, yeah, hello, Mark. I'm back in.
Apologies for the connection. I'm not sure if it's somewhere along the line there's some sort of connection issue.
funny thing, it'll be at this end because
It's funny. I was just saying. I just wondered if someone else was on the internet. All right. Can you hear me okay now, though? Yeah.
I'll nod. You can hear me.
Brilliant. No, awesome. Let's go back to your time at Norwich. You had an incredible career there. Can you talk to me about some of the highlights of your time at Norwich City?
Yeah. Well, when I left Aberdeen, the last thing Alex Ferguson told me as I went out the door was that you set your sights high.
Yeah. Is it totally frozen again? Is it worth stopping the live and starting afresh? Is it frozen our end? We're going to try and get Bryan back if we can. That's our big tip. Bryan, you're back. How you doing? Sorry.
Yeah. No, I think what I was saying there was the last thing that Alex Ferguson said to me was set your sights high. You're a top 6 goalkeeper. You're going to Norwich, but you can do better than that. So I went away from Aberdeen, sort of feeling proud of what I'd been part of there, and then coming to Norwich City. Obviously, just been promoted from the old Division 2 at the time into the top division, which was the Division 1. And when I got there, they were actually sitting top of the league. They'd had a purple patch start of the season. I got there in the October. And unfortunately, Graham Benstead, the then goalkeeper who took over from Chris Woods, he was sitting there, and unfortunately, he dislocated his collarbone at Anfield in a 6-2 defeat. And I managed to get in the week after, and I came up against one of my great heroes, Ray Clements, who was in the sticks at the other end. We played Spurs in my first league game. We beat them 2-1. A few weeks later, we played against Peter Shilton, who was playing for Derby. I came up against Neville Southall fairly quickly.
Wow. These are like awesome goalkeepers.
Yeah, so I'd obviously watched them from afar in Scotland, and my first sort of 2 months in English football, I'd come up against all these legends. And Norwich that season, we ended up finishing 5th, and we won 2-1 at Highbury at the end of the season, which in the old days would have helped you qualify for Europe. But unfortunately, due to the Heysel ban, we weren't able to take our place in European football. So then that was the sort of the 86-87 season. 88-89, we finished 4th, and we got to the FA Cup semi-final. And again, unfortunately, because of the bans on English clubs at the time, we couldn't take our place in Europe. But we also got to the semi-final of the very sad day that was sort of mirrored the Hillsborough game. We played Everton at Aston Villa. Unfortunately, got beat 1-0, and then the sad things that happened at Hillsborough that day, and then Liverpool ended up playing Everton in the final. But 2 seasons after that, 92-93 was the first year of the Premiership, as it was called then.
Yeah.
And we led that up until I think the middle of December, and we sort of dropped away towards the end of the season and ended up finishing 3rd, which again this time, fortunately enough, because of Arsenal's victories in the League Cup and also in the FA Cup, meant that we qualified for the UEFA Cup, which was brilliant for a club like Norwich. But
you went on a hell of a run as well, didn't you, that year?
Yeah, unbelievable. We had a great squad. It had grown up together, over a number of years. And I always thought back then to Alex Ferguson, who said to me that you're a top 6 goalkeeper. And he was absolutely right, because we'd finished in those 5th, 4th, and 3rd positions, nearly helping Norwich City, who were never really, fancied to win anything. But we were so close on a number of occasions during my time at the club. Just sad that we didn't actually, pick up any silverware. But I think we're all remembered for the fine European run, and probably most legendary night was beating Bayern Munich in the Olympic Stadium.
You made an incredible save that night as well, didn't you?
Once again, I saved something with my midriff. You've got to use all parts of your body.
100%.
Probably more important save than a great technical save, but again, something that goalkeepers do in training every day. You move across your goals as quickly as possible. You try to get the other side, and you try to spread your body or just make a big save. And that certainly was the one that a lot of people remember me for, and it gave us the platform to go on to beat Bayern Munich over the two legs. So again, something that all English football and British football were very proud of at the time.
No, it sounded like an incredible moment. So your real highlight, was that the ultimate highlight in your time at Norwich City? Is there anything else that really stood out in your time there?
Well, I don't know.
Particular save that you maybe had?
I think the clean sheets at Anfield as well, from sort of 1988, I think it was 87, 88, 89, had 3 consecutive clean sheets. And I think that was only equalled by Gordon Banks at the time. I'm not sure what the present stats are and if anyone's taken over our record, but it'd be interesting to find that out. The season after, I did a newspaper article, and I got pictured with a no entry sign. So I was holding this no entry sign up, and this picture went in the paper. So brilliant. I can only imagine that the Liverpool manager must have pinned that to the board at Anfield, and Jan Mulvey stuck one past me from 35 yards into the top corner. I think we ended up getting beat 3-1 that day, so that paid for my clean sheet record. But also the year after that, the last day of the Old Standing Cup, we also won 1-0 there. Everyone remembers Jerry Goss's volley. Fantastic goal. Can't take anything away from Jerry Goss. But that also meant that 1-0 also meant I was the last goalkeeper to have a clean sheet in front of the Old Standing Cup. So take those things away with you, and some great memories. And I've got many Liverpool fans who are great friends. I love the Scousers. I get on really well with them all, and when I reminisce going back to those days, they give me a pat on the back.
Yeah, well, you've had a wonderful career. It's great to hear the stories as well. And talking about international football as well, you represented your country as well, Scotland. What was your time like in the international setup back then?
Yeah, well, I played 6 times, 6 World Cups. I was around at the same time as Jim Leighton and Andy Gorham.
2 very good goalkeepers.
Very good goalkeeping squad, and so I reckon I've been on the bench about 100 times and only played 6 games. But we had a good time over the years, representing our country. I was lucky enough to go to the World Cup in Italia '90. Unfortunately, after 3 games, Scotland were home, but it was a wonderful experience. And
to go to a World Cup. Go to a World Cup must be amazing. It was the first World Cup I remember, actually, Italia '90. It must have been. A kid dreams of going and playing for representing their national team at a World Cup. It must have been incredible.
Yeah, no, just to be part of it. I actually made my debut in the build-up to the World Cup, so I don't know if I had a better game against Egypt and the 3-1 defeat at Pittodrie, I might have kept my place in the team. But I understood that Jim Leighton was the number 1 at the time. Likewise, I think Andy Gorham did, and it was myself and Andy that were battling away behind the scenes to keep Jim on his toes. And that's what we did. I think Jim knew that there was good goalkeepers behind him, and he had to play at the best level he could do to keep us out of the team. And he certainly did that. And unfortunately, I didn't really play again after that until it was '93. But it was also coincided with our time in Europe with Norwich. So I was playing I played the rest of my international games in that era. Before I missed one of the tournaments. I think the '92 European Championships I missed because of injury, and then we didn't qualify for the '94 I think we drew at Pittodrie against Switzerland, which stopped us from getting through, and I think helped Switzerland, take up that place from our group. So, but yeah, some great memories. Aberdeen, Norwich, Scotland, and I should also mention Hibernian, because I played 12 games for Hibernian, and really loved my time in Edinburgh. Unfortunately, my second broken leg of my career put paid to it, but I played 12 games for them, and I still get wonderful messages from the Hibs fans. I think it was on the day that John Robertson scored his 50th derby goal against Hibernian. He stuck a free kick past me. But Hibs hadn't won the derby for about 10 years, and we won 2-1 that day, so I was part of the victorious Hibs side as well. And as I say, I only played 12 games, but I still get lots of lovely messages from Hibs fans, and I really love my time there.
Played at some brilliant football clubs, some wonderful football clubs, a great heritage as well. I want to talk to you about the difference between being a goalkeeper back when you were playing yourself, and now you look at, obviously you're watching Angus play, and the way the game's evolved and changed. What's the difference of being a goalkeeper now to back when you were a goalkeeper?
Well, I think I was sort of when I was coming through then, I was being taught by Alec Ferguson, Archie Knox, Ken Brown, Mel Machin at Norwich City, of being that high line goalkeeper, pushing up behind your defenders, for that through ball. They were encouraging their teams to press it, even back then. It might not have been, sort of as highly profiled as it is in this day and age, but certainly when I was in the team, those managers knew that I liked playing like that. I mean, other goalkeepers in that era liked playing on the line, liked making saves. But, I think my debut for Norwich, my second home game for Norwich City, I tackled Remy Moses near the halfway line. Yeah. So I think the Norwich City fans, got a bit of a fright, and thought I was just one of those normal Scottish goalkeepers that Jimmy Greaves used to go on about. But I think they realised then after that, when I timed a few, more challenges outside the box, that this was a good way of playing. It allowed our team to push up the pitch, and sort of hopefully, help. I was helping them, get possession of the ball at the earliest opportunity. And then, I think in my early days we could still pass the ball back and pick up the pass back, but very quickly they changed the pass back rules. So again, having done a lot of outfield training with those coaches in mind, that I think whether they knew it was coming along or whether it was just the way they wanted us to play at those clubs. It certainly helped me in the modern game. I reckon if I could, take maybe 30 years out of my body at the moment and transfer me into a Premier League match, I would do okay. And my sort of technical ability and my skills would easily work in both eras.
You have to be really good with your feet now as a goalkeeper, don't you?
Yeah, and that's something that, as I say, I mean, I was lucky enough, and I didn't have goalkeeping coaches in those days. I think if you remember back then, I was lucky enough to have Bobby Clark, who worked with us as a senior goalkeeper, but myself and Jim Layton used to train each other. I wouldn't say coach each other, but we used to have the routines that we would do in the build up to maybe joining the teams in the rest of the sessions. And then I took over that mantle when I went to Norwich City. I was the senior goalkeeper, so I would help warm the goalkeepers up in the morning, and then we'd all get sent to our respective pitches. And then I think it was probably when I went to Scotland in the sort of mid '90s or maybe early '90s that we had Alan Hodgkinson, who was as a goalkeeping coach that used to come and work with us. But he was very much a globetrotter. He was a part-time at Man United. He was part-time at Rangers. And I think it was only sort of in those early '90s years that goalkeeping coaches came to the fore. I think my first one at Norwich City was a guy called Martin Thomas, who was a Welsh international, played for Birmingham City, and he still works for the FA at the moment. I think he's due to retire shortly, but he was my first goalkeeping coach. But he came in on a Thursday, so sort of you go back to that era. But we're very much working ourselves, working with our teammates, outfield players as well. Lots of shooting drills, crossing and finishing drills. So not the normal sort of 45 minutes to an hour that you would get in this day and age working with your respective goalkeeping coach before going to join your outfield players in the small-sided games that they would play at the end of sessions. You'd probably spend most of your day now with your goalkeeping coach, and then just a small period with the rest of the team at the end.
Right, do you do any coaching yourself now?
Not now. I mean, I did have a period when I looked after the goalkeepers at Norwich City when Glenn Roeder was the manager. Tommy Wright was due to come in as goalkeeping coach with Glenn, but he had to stay behind in Ireland until the summer, and so I did those duties for those 6 months. So I worked with likes of David Marshall, Matthew Gilks, Joe Lewis, Declan Rudd, Jed Steer. Those were the sort of the goalkeepers and the young goalkeepers coming through at the time. So, and even a very, 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 very young Angus Gunn, who was probably 8 or 9, and so I remember firing a ball at him, and he took 2 touches on it, and he sort of threw it back to me with a little bit of cheek about it. So I smashed it at him. I smashed it at him again, and all the lads were sort of looking at me saying, "Bloody hell, if he's doing that to his son, what's he going to do to us?"
That's brilliant. That's a great story. Talking to Angus, you obviously, when you're able to go and watch, do you go and watch all of his games, or due to work, is it hard to get to all of Angus's games?
Well, majority of the games he played in, I went to see when he was certainly in the Premier League with Southampton. The first season he went there, obviously he played in cup games, and then I think it wasn't until when Ralph Hasenhüttl joined in the December that he played Angus in his first Premier League game at Stamford Bridge, where he again had a clean sheet. So we were lucky enough as a family to be there, and enjoyed that. Also, I think I mentioned to you earlier that he went to Norwich on loan, which was quite ironic. The family moved to the northwest when Angus signed for Manchester City from Norwich City Academy. My wife was originally from Bolton. My daughter was going to university in Manchester, so it made sense that we all moved to the northwest, and that's when I began my scouting role with Triple S Sports Management. So I was watching all of his academy games at Manchester City, which were easy enough to get to. And then he decided to move 250 miles back to Norwich, so for his first loan opportunity.
I bet it was a proud moment though to see your son playing for the club that must hold such a warm part of your heart, a club that you had such a wonderful time at. Was it a lovely moment?
Yeah, no, it was, and he was a massive fan of the club as well. I mean, he grew up as a Norwich City supporter. Unfortunately, they were in Division 1 as his Premier League team. He had the big, he respected Peter Cech. He liked him and his style. Obviously, Angus is 6'6" as well, a very tall, lanky goalkeeper. So
very tall. Yeah, I've seen him play a lot. Very tall.
Yeah, I think he copied the style of Peter Cech, which wasn't a bad person to style yourself on.
No, not at all.
And then he came through, the ranks at Norwich, played in the under-18s as a 15-year-old, and then he also went with England as a very young 16-year-old in an under-18 tournament. So he was being fast-tracked, and obviously a lot of the top clubs in the Premier League were watching him at the time. Obviously, Norwich City were in the Championship at one time, and then in League One. So the club was still recovering financially. So when they got a bid from Manchester City, Angus moved on to Manchester City to carry on his development as a young goalkeeper. So that was a great time in his young career as well, learning from the likes of Joe Hart, who was number 1 at the time. He's obviously worked with, I think he missed out on Ederson, worked with the likes of Willie Caballero there as well, and spent time with Pep. Patrick Vieira was his coach in the under-23. So
wonderful club to go and play for, though. Wonderful club to go and play for.
Great education. Yeah. And again, you're talking about the modern goalkeeper. Goalkeeping coaches there. Xavi Maniscador was Spanish goalkeeping coach. So learning different techniques from them as well. So yeah, so his development has been fantastic. And then when he had, I think he played 51 games for Norwich City. He missed out on one of the early League Cup ties. He played all 46 league games and 4 or 5 cup games, which he did very well in. And I think Southampton had a player on loan, Harrison Reed. So every time they went to watch Harrison Reed, they obviously saw Angus play well. So it coincided with him, signing for Southampton.
Perfect. I wish him all the best and hope that he gets back playing soon, because he's a wonderful goalkeeper. Want to get him back on the field and see him playing again. And also, we can't wait to see him in his AB1 gloves as well.
Well, he's really enjoying using them. He's obviously just started using them when he signed for Stoke City. I was lucky enough to meet the guys from AB1 and went through the new range. Angus was just coming out of contract with another glove company, so it was a good opportunity for him to look at different options. And to say he really loves the range. And it's just not been on the pitch enough in the last month to get the full benefit from them.
And we look forward to seeing him back. Before you go, Brian, I've had a question coming. Can I, if that's okay?
Yeah.
It's coming from Ben Thomas. He said, how do you think you would have dealt with being in the current situation, games behind closed doors? Did you thrive on spectators being there? Or did you purely have to concentrate on your game?
Yeah, no, I think I bounced off fans as well. I think in my time, I used to do this sort of trademark run up to the goal and try and headbutt the crossbar, which the Norwich City fans, sort of cottoned onto, and then they used to build that up in my run towards the goal. And I only headbutted it once. Well, I didn't really headbutt it. I just touched it, and it left me with stars and floating around my head for about half an hour in the start of the game. So advise any young goalkeeper not to headbutt crossbars. It does hurt. They are metal, so don't do that. But I think I thrived with crowds. Obviously, the way the lads are playing now. I mean, I went to those 2 games recently. I said at Middlesbrough and at Stoke City, and it was only the press that were there, and maybe 50 or so club officials and a few stewards around the pitch. And it was very strange indeed. And obviously, sitting watching it at home, you might have a little bit of crowd noise coming into your home. But certainly when you're at a stadium, it wasn't. I'd rather play with crowds, I must admit. But hats off to the players and the commitment they're putting in on the pitch. There's some good games there. Lots of good goalkeeping, lots of good goal scoring, lots of good defending. So it's just they've got to do it at the moment, and I think they're probably keeping everyone's sanity that we can actually watch some football on the pitch at the moment as well.
No, definitely. It's been great having you on this evening, Brian. I can't thank you enough for joining me. You've given us some brilliant stories. I'm going to publish this on YouTube as well. So anyone that's just joined us now, I'm going to publish it on YouTube later on this evening, first thing tomorrow. So if anyone wants to catch up on it, it's been an awesome chat, Brian. I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas to you and your family. All the best to Angus as well. And thank you for everything this evening. I think we've lost Brian again. We've got some connection issues somewhere this evening, that's for sure. We are now going to wrap the show up. I just want to thank Brian for coming on this evening. Thank him for the stories he's given us. Brian, I'm going to give you a quick ring when I finish in a minute, but a massive thank you for joining me this evening. For all you guys that are tuning in, we've got another competition running at AB1GK at the moment. Make sure you head over to our Instagram page or any social media platform, Twitter as well. For 2021, we want to offer one lucky goalkeeper a year's sponsorship with AB1GK. It will include a whopping 10 pairs of gloves, a glove bag, glove towel, and a cap. Your gloves will be personalised as well. And to enter, you have to follow AB1GK, tag one fellow goalkeeper, and send us a 15-second clip on why you should be chosen. Entries close on the 23rd, and the winner will be announced on the 24th of December. Get your entries coming in. There's a massive opportunity for one of you guys to win an endorsee sponsorship deal with AB1GK. So send your videos across to us. You can do that via email to martin@asmere1.com, or just pop them on a direct message on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and they will end up in the hands of the right people at AB1GK. Massive apologies for the connection issues today. I've also lost the microphones in my ears as well. I wish you all a very Merry Christmas. Happy holidays, everybody. There won't be no show, Ask Martin GK show now till January, but make sure you do follow myself on Twitter as well. I am GK Glove Guru. Make sure you search me and find me, and make sure you're following all the social media channels for AB1GK, and they will be updated daily with all the ongoings at AB1GK. Anything new that may arrive, and all the news of what the endorse is up to. It's a busy time for these goalkeepers now, so we will keep you updated with what's happening. Very best wishes, everybody. I will see you again in 2021.